What's up, and welcome to the 22 Booker Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host, Corlandos, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Ryan Lipscomb, the writer and director of our upcoming film, Morning. And we got a very special person on with us today. We have Will Goldstein, who's also a producer on the project. Will, Ryan, and I go way, way back. But Will, glad to have you on today, man.
Thank you. I feel so honored to be a part of this.
You should be. I mean, this is a very serious podcast that discusses very serious things. So,
man, I'm just grateful I got enough sleep last night because I knew I had this podcast coming up, and I was like, I've never been on a podcast before. I got to be cool.
Wow, you rested up and prepped.
I've rested and I combed my hair. Man, this is a big deal. Usually, I fall out of bed and start producing.
The rest is downhill from that end. I mean, but I feel like every producer falls out of bed and starts producing. Before we jump into specifics about how you are producing on this project, Morning, talk to us about how you came to this world of filmmaking and producing and the whole nine.
Well, that's a loaded question.
Start from the beginning.
Story. But I'll give you the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
I've been interested in movies since I was a little kid. And when I realized I wasn't tall enough to play basketball professionally, I decided to just go into filmmaking because that was my second love. And it was cool because you could eat like lots of popcorn and watch movies. And you can tell people you're working.
It's true.
And I got into a good film school and I met Ryan there. And, we just, we hit it off. And I produced his thesis film that you starred in. Co-starred.
Starred. What are we doing? Starred.
Starred. And, since then, Ryan's always been somebody I like to collaborate with. And I've been trying to push him to get to start making his own stuff. Independently. And it looks like we're finally doing that. I think
let's pause right there because I want to get your perspective on the current reality of filmmaking in this post-streaming world that we live in. Because you and I both, and Ryan will admit it, we've all been saying, like, we just got to make something. We just have to make something because the way that maybe some of us came up with the studio system and waiting on things to be greenlit and all that kind of stuff isn't working out for everybody who wants to make a film. So when you've been saying just go make something, what does that mean to you, to the person who's out there who's just wanting to get their voice and their work and their creativity into the marketplace in some way?
I feel like you have to just start making things and then, the rest comes to you. And I'm still in the process of making things. I made something completely on my own that cost like $5,000. Like I shot it myself, I cut it, I did like the whole Robert Rodriguez thing with that. But I think you just need to start building. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you want to be a writer director, you gotta just get out, start putting your voice out there and let the world come to you.
I mean, that's
just about making content. If nothing else, it's about getting your voice out there.
Yeah, that's real because like I just recently I had a meeting with an exec. I was talking to an executive, and they were essentially just kind of admitting that, like, I think it's not revelatory. I think most of Hollywood feels this way, that like the studio system kind of has to change in some way in order for Hollywood to kind of move forward. And I was telling them about the film I was making, trying to put together, and just like, hey, like there was the idea of like, me and Will talked about this, is like, okay, like try and do a super micro budget feature versus just trying to do a high end short, which is what we ultimately decided to do. And the thing was like, you do a micro budget feature and it's like, cool, but like, it may not pop the way you want it to pop just because production value is lower. It might get lost in the fold. Whereas, you make a really, high-end short that's really good, that has a tendency to maybe do some things, maybe get you the money to do the burning pictures you want to do. And like the exec was telling me, like, their company, like, they actually do, like, they actually get most excited about watching the shorts at that. Because like that's who's coming up. That's the people that they get kind of most excited about is like who, like, finding a really good short film that they can in a creator that they can champion, and so I think, like, and I told this exact, like, the same thing that I kind of been telling you guys, which was like, I think we're in a very exciting time in terms of Hollywood, because it is a time of change and resetting, and just from the standpoint of there are a lot of writers, directors, producers like us who are essentially like, okay, the current studio system is a bit broken. And so now we got to go out and do stuff on our own, so we can do interesting things,
That's the thing I've been saying since we graduated.
You have. I mean, but, like most, like, filmmakers came out of USC, where we came out of. It was like, I got caught up in, like, the whole idea of, like, oh, so these producers want, like, these established producers want to, like, help me make this feature that I want to do. You know what I mean? I'm having these meetings out of the agencies. I'm they're putting books together of all these, like, prominent actors. Like, hey, we can put this thing together. And like I was kind of getting swept up into the machinery of Hollywood in terms of, like, hey, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this for you. And most times, it's a lot of it is talk, and then the honest truth is, what I should have done from the beginning, fresh out of grad school, and I know this now, and I've told students this now, is that instead of trying to chase Hollywood and apparatus, get your people that you're in school with now. And when you graduate, those same people, you guys start making stuff together and start building together. And that is your best route, because eventually, like, you'll come up together, and then you look around and, like, all the people that that are your friends are actually in positions of power within Hollywood. You all came up together, and that is the way you actually should do things. Stop trying to chase agents and managers and trying to chase, executives, whatever. They'll find you at the end of the day if you're already making stuff. So
be more focused on tapping into your own inner voice than scheduling coffee with other people.
Yeah.
It's a waste of money because you don't have it. And whatever you do have should be going to your production.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, I had to come to a point, like I said, and it's hard because, like, it's hard to have perspective in this business about, like, where you are, your position in it, whatever, in terms of, like, I've been lucky enough to be, like, been working in the business, this industry for the past 10 years, like, actually, like, working. I've worked in writers' rooms, I've, been on TV at the Emmys, like, what I'm saying? Like, I've been working in the industry, whatever, but not, doing the things that I necessarily, like, want to be doing in terms of, like, I'm telling my own story and getting my own stuff made, but, like, and that's, that's more so than, like, that's also, like, more than a lot of people even went to school with have been able to do, you know what I mean? And so you gotta have perspective about, like, where you are. And so, like, I still trying to, like, I was still trying to, like, I'm almost there, like, just need this thing to break, whatever. And it's like, no, I should have been, like, doing this like Will, like you told me, like, years ago, and it hasn't told me for years, is like, no, man, like, you got to, like, put your own stuff, just go ahead, put your own stuff together, stop trying to chase it, do your thing, make your stuff, the way you want to make it, versus trying to, like, compromise in order to fit into whatever box Hollywood to put you in, and so, I mean, that's kind of the reason why, like, when I was, like, finally got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to go do this. And, it's scary to do this. This is why it took me so long to do it. You know what I mean? But, like, that's why when I decided to do morning, and to start 22 Booker, like, you know, with Will, Corlandos, like to both of you, like to the first people I called to say this is what I want to do. I want you guys to, you know, to be part of it, you know. And Will, maybe you can talk more about like that conversation with like why you decided to jump off the cliff with me, you know.
Well, that's, I mean, I've been waiting for you to come up with something that we can produce, you know. So it wasn't anything, you know, surprising to me. I've just been waiting for you to come around to the block. And now we're here.
Now we're here.
The project.
Yeah. What?
I would say more, it's more of a necessary project. That's not to, you know, say that it's not good. It's just, I feel like filmmaking at its core is, or any kind of art, is when you tap into that, your own personal experience, you can, surprisingly, you get a lot of people that relate to you. And if you, I feel like that's like the reward you get for having the courage to express your voice, like unfiltered. And I felt like this project was so in that vein. And so, I mean, and there's an element of catharsis to it, and it also brings up, you know, mental health issues, which is personally, like that's an area I like to explore and shed light on and decrease stigma. And I think this project does a lot of that. But you know, I probably would have produced anything that you made, because I just want us to, you know, all work together again. But this was, it's got a lot of heart to this project.
And that's the same thing that I said, Will. I was like, I was going to do whatever you wanted to do. But when you brought Morning out, and if you haven't listened to the first episode of the podcast, go back and listen to the first episode where we talk about exactly what the project entails. And we'll probably get into a little bit of it here, but we really go into depth, Ryan does, about why he wrote the project, what it means to him, and all that stuff. But Will, I also was like, oh, well, if we're going to come out the gate with something like this is definitely the one. Because Ryan, you have a few different projects, and then one other one in particular that we were going back for which one should be the first one.
Yeah.
And this one just through the course of trial and error won out.
Yeah, I think, you know, just it's so personal that I don't think you're gonna top that. I think like the first thing that you put out's got to be personal.
Yeah, I mean, and I think
that's my opinion. You want to go out and, you know, make it an action movie, then that's your own business.
Yeah, look, I'm not opposed to an action movie, but like, you know, for this one, you know, it just felt right, just for the standpoint of like, you know, instead of writing or trying to produce one of my older scripts and trying to get that done, I kind of just like, this was just on my heart at the time, you know what I mean? It was like, it seemed just relevant to where I was in my life and as an artist, whatever, you know. And you know, as we discussed in like the first episode, like, you know, I lost my father, you know, in 2021 to COVID. And so like, you know, this is me just trying to deal with that essentially, you know what I mean? And kind of like work out what those feelings were and you know, turn that into art, whatever, you know what I mean? That's kind of like just what it was. And so like, you know, especially like to the standpoint of like trying to do this for the first time in a while, in terms of just like, I'm gonna produce this, we're gonna produce this with our bare hands and like kind of just put this together, you know, and we're gonna start a company and you know, name the company, you know, essentially after my dad, and, you know, it's called 22 Booker because my dad would, you know, played basketball for Booker T. Washington High School. His number was 22. And so just from the standpoint of like, you know, him kind of being with me on this journey, you know, even the time I even started grad school and like trying to get out and get in and break into this industry and trying to like do my thing, him being so supportive and like just felt like this was the right thing to do in terms of like this being the right short, it being so personal, you know, we have the opportunity to expand into a feature, you know, if it's the right thing to do, you know, but this being the first project, it felt like the right thing in terms of like trying to get this off the ground, and like, because, you know, and our plan is to produce more things and produce this and produce the next thing and produce the next thing, whatever. But like, this felt right for the first project.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, any artist's first project has to come from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can elevate later, but I think initially you gotta speak your voice, and I think this is really emblematic of that.
I think it's like putting your stamp on who you are as an artist. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff. You've written all kinds of stuff. You're writing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But the introduction to most people who don't already know you, I think, like Will said, should be something personal, so they can see like, oh, okay, all right, this is who he is, you know. And I know there's a lot of writers and directors who have done that. Let me ask you, have you guys?
And it's wild.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's also like, it's wild too, in the standpoint of like, even in the stuff that I write across like other genres, right? Because I mean, I've kind of written stuff in multiple genres, like, and Will has said this a bunch of times reading my stuff, whatever. It's like, this character is you, right? Like, you know what I mean? This is just you. You're just putting yourself in this. I never see it that way. It is very organic when it happens. It's not intentional at all. But this is just like what I guess what writers do.
Really?
It's not intentional at all.
There's no element of narcissism where you're like,
Damn.
What is that? Paint some stuff into every painting. Isn't there an artist that does that?
Was it what?
Wasn't there an artist who painted himself into every like scene he painted?
It sounds like something somebody's done.
Probably. I can't remember.
Okay.
Potentially, but nah. I don't know if it's narcissism. I don't know if it's that, but like, but it's like, no, like, you take a little kernel of yourself, you kind of put yourself into the work. You know what I mean? It is your experience. It's like, this is why I keep saying like we read by AI, but robots can't be artists. You know what I mean? Like the very definition of art is like the expression of human experience, you know. And so like that's the whole thing, whatever. So I think every artist, like, it's not like germane to me. I think every artist puts a little piece of themselves in their work, whatever, you know.
You write what you know, and
yeah,
you know better than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm excited about it too. I recently watched a short on Netflix called The After. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Stars David Oyelowo. He's a rideshare driver whose family, he had a family loss due to like some tragic violence, and it's it was Academy nominated, and it really, for me, kind of showed that there's a blueprint for a bigger audience for something like what we're doing. And there weren't special effects. It was good writing. It was a good story. And it had like a, 18-minute runtime or something like that. It was perfect. So if you guys haven't checked it out, check it out.
For sure. And like Will, can you just like we kind of talked about like where you kind of met, whatever, but can you just like tell a little bit people a little bit more about like yourself and like your journey and like, how you came to be where you are now?
Man, where am I now? I feel like that's the constant question. And then I feel like when you're producing and you're spinning 20 plates at the same time, you're kind of always in a lot of different dimensions at the same time. So there, my life is how I got to where I am today. And I moved back to Phoenix because I wanted to produce stuff without all the red tape, and it's easier to do that over here. And I wanted to start building my own Rolodex and getting in touch with the artists here and getting in touch with the culture here. It's just a lot easier to navigate. But I have you know, there's a handful of other projects that I'm producing right now. This just happens to be the one that's cooking at the moment. Everything else is still on deck. But you know, when I was a kid, I was sick a lot. Like I had a blood disorder, so I had to stay inside, and I watched movies all the time. So I would be watching, you know, Indiana Jones or Back to the Future or stuff like that. You know, like my buddies would be outside riding bikes and stuff, but like movies kept me company. So in a way, like I always wanted to make movies, and I wanted to. That was my way of giving back. You know, hopefully that'll help some other kid that's dealing with shit. But that's what really drove me to do this. And, you know, really, and then once I realized, you know, basketball wasn't going to be the situation for me, I really started to take it seriously. And I studied film at the University of Arizona, which is a lot more of an experimental program, which was cool because it opened my brain up and my eyes up to stuff I'd never even thought you could do with movies. Like in my mind, it was the very, you know, Hollywood style kind of thing. And then I realized this was the thing that I wanted to do for sure. Like at first it was just about getting a degree, and then I was like, you know, I really want to do this. And I started taking it seriously, started studying really hard, got rejected from every possible film school except for USC, which I found out at the last minute.
You're going to get into one. I mean, of the ones you can get into.
And I applied. The only reason I applied is because one of my professors wouldn't write me a letter of rec unless I applied to it. And I was like, well, I'm not do that one.
That's like the only law school I got into was Yale, so I guess I had to go.
Yeah. And, you know, that kind of blew my mind. I was like, okay, I guess this is like what I'm supposed to do. I took it as a sign. I got there and I met, you know, it was interesting to be around people that were as hungry as I was, you know, because I felt like there was a lack of motivation around the people that I was with, at least, you know, filmmaker wise, when I was in Arizona. And, you know, just being around that, you know, being at school was like a think tank is what it felt like to me. You know, you're just constantly talking about, you know, productions and art. And, you know, that was, and Ryan and I just kind of hit it off because we had similar interests, similar styles, and, you know, wanted to do projects in a similar way that had similar themes.
Yeah, you came with me. I think it was like after, was it after 507 or 508? I can't remember. It's like one of those like I did a short about like this very like at the time I was like early in my grad school career. I kept making these like romantic shorts, whatever. For whatever reason, and our friend Jenna, who was in my class, was like really good friend of you, whatever. At the time, was like, "Yo, like you got right? Oh my gosh, like you know what I mean?" Like
I do remember that.
Yeah, he was like,
Jenna was a big fan back in the day.
Yeah. And so yeah, like you know, yeah, Will, you gotta be Ryan, whatever. You know, he's doing these shorts, whatever. They're so beautiful. Blah, blah, blah.
That wasn't the reason, though. The reason was because we were talking about how all these shootings had been happening, and they had been on, you know, the 4th or 5th page of the newspaper. I was like, nobody's talking about this, and somebody needs to talk about it. And that's essentially what your thesis was. And I was like, okay, I'm all about this.
Yeah. Yeah, that became Bruise. And I wrote you into that one too.
Yeah, and then we met this guy, Mr. Corlandos.
Yeah, man. I mean, and when I came on board Bruise, like you guys were already cooking, but it was cool for me not being in the film school world to see just like how that community worked and seeing how tight knit you guys were and how integral you guys were to each other's. Because I didn't one of you produce for the other also, like Ryan, weren't you on someone else's? And
he produced Rich's project.
Yeah, I produced Richard Reddy Arriaga, who was the assistant director on Bruce. Yeah. He ended up I produced his thesis film. Happy Birthday. And so we kind of like it's basically like we kind of all worked each other's projects. Like I started working with Rich because like he's the AD on another film, but he brought me on as be his second AD on that. You know what I mean? And so like we just kind of like, hey, I'm working on this project, can you help? I'm working on that project, can you help? Blah blah blah. Just kind of going back and forth, and that's kind of how USC Bro, you just kind of collaborate with all your people. It's like the great thing about like film school, especially like the graduate program, especially because like I think the undergrad program, like they got to do all their other like your requirements to the graduate for the degree, whatever. But like the MFA program, we kind of just had all we had to do was like focus exclusively on filmmaking, and be able to kind of like focus exclusively on filmmaking for like 3.5 years, all the resources in the world, whatever, to do that. Was it was so important, you know what I mean, to be able to do that. It was special. Yeah.
Well, I wanted you to, if you would, talk about what do you hope to get out of the project, and what do you hope audiences take away from the project?
I've gotten to the point where like what I hope audiences take away, and it's going to be so subjective. I think my goal is just to focus on getting the project done and making sure that it's, I mean, I know it's going to be quality, so I'm not concerned there. Whatever people take away, what I took away from it is like I have a close relationship with my dad, and dealing with that, like, going into that world and dealing with that kind of, grief and trauma is not something that I like to think about, but it is something that is necessary to think about. But primarily what really drove me is that I feel like this is Ryan really expressing his the most vulnerable part of yourself. And I think that if you want to elevate, that's where you got to start. And I think, the team that we have, they're people I like working with. And, I'm assuming that this is going to lead to something else. And I want to keep working with people that I like. So that's the practical perspective. But from an artistic perspective, I think that, people who aren't afraid to tap into those, dark corners of their voice and put it out there, I'll support that.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, I mean, the thing, and I hope this like comes across in the film, is just that, there's, it is the whole thing is mourning, whatever, but it's also like the fact that it's not linear, it's not constant sadness. I think the thing that like I learned while I was kind of in the early stages of grieving was that just how many people kind of like came around me, like my community came around me and supported me in ways that I wasn't necessarily expecting, you know what I mean, which was very, very profound to me. And so the idea of like even in like this time that is like the worst time of your life, that your friends and your family kind of come around you and kind of lift you up and kind of support you and kind of like can still make you laugh. You know what I mean? It was so important because I mean, for me, when I was going through it, like it felt like the world ended, right? And so, the idea that like you kind of like hang out with your people and they can still make you laugh is so important. You're like, oh, like life is still happening. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what the film is about. It's essentially about like this like putting one foot in front of the other and still being able to go forward and like it's still being in this mode of remembrance, but also like gratitude, and still being able to like live your life and knowing that like people there are people in your life that are very important who like you are important to, and that like life is still worth living. That's kind of like the point of the movie,
I don't disagree. I mean that but I don't want to. I don't want to become, like didactic about the point of the movie. I want people to take away what they're going to take away from it. I'm more interested in how people feel in their interpretation.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I
Is
mean,
that
there's no, go
Is
ahead.
that what
Cord.
art in general will, or
Yeah,
specific to this film?
it really is. Like, to me, like I care. I mean, this is maybe to certain people controversial, but I believe like how you feel when it's done or when you leave is what's most important.
I mean, that's like the Stanley Kubrick philosophy on filmmaking is that the audience should experience the film like they experience a piece of music, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Kubrick fan, but I don't.
We are on the same island.
Yeah.
But like, that's a whole other podcast. Brilliant filmmaking, also frustrating, but like
Yes.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Even while I say that, like I still kind of take, even in my work, I still kind of take lessons from that, right? Like I still, I'm still kind of adopting that same philosophy in certain ways because in this project and in a couple others that I have this, I had this penchant for introducing this one pop of like magical realism into the work. I don't want to explain it. You know what I'm saying? Like it happens once, it kind of comes out of nowhere. I don't want to explain it. You know what I mean? Like, and, we've had, we've all had the notes, but like, well, can you like kind of like tease a little bit? Can you do, but like, why is it happening like this way? Blah blah blah. I don't understand. Like, yo, just let it happen. Just go with it. You know what I'm saying? And like, however you feel, what it was like. You walk out of the theater, you finish watching the movie, like that's how you feel. You know what I mean? And you can interpret what it means to you. I know what it means to me. But I'm not gonna tell you what it means.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so like I still like as long as you felt something, and hopefully you do feel something. That's what's most important. And so yeah, like I've kind of adopted that like in a lot of my work, including this movie, including Mourning, where it's like some stuff happens that is not necessarily is left up to interpretation.
Yeah, I love when movies make me think. Like when I leave and I'm in a quandary, I'm like, okay, something special happened.
I like that to a point, but like when you start going,
yeah, no, but this isn't
like David Lynch, Mulholland Drive. Like I'm like,
I don't go that far. I don't go that far. You know what I mean? Like, although like people love Mulholland Drive, man. So it's like
Mulholland Drive is great.
Yeah,
if you get it.
Mulholland Drive.
Yeah,
that okay. People say they love Mulholland Drive, and then when you like drill down into it, like, well, because when you think about it, it's like, well, and I'm like, stop.
I'm not even.
You can say that because.
Can argue about that another time.
That's what you're supposed to say. I love Mulholland Drive. It was brilliant and okay. Well,
we're not making Mulholland Drive. This is a little more straightforward.
Yeah,
a lot more straightforward.
Well, yeah. Look, we tease a thing and like there's done and like that's it happened and it's, hopefully it looks great, it looks incredible and like yeah, hopefully it works out the way we want to work out the thing we're trying to do. But
if it's good, it will happen, and everything else thus far is good. We just gotta execute.
Yeah. So, Ryan, where can people go to support the film, to get information, to get updates, and know exactly where we are in the filmmaking process?
So obviously we have an Indiegogo campaign happening right now. We'll probably have put a link to it underneath the site, I hope. But we have an Indiegogo campaign happening right now. Please go and donate. If you also were fiscally sponsored through Film Independent, a 501c3 organization that supports independent film. If you want to, you can also donate through them. And if you donate through them, your contribution is tax deductible. So that's an added perk for that. Also, we have a 22 Booker Substack that I update periodically, just kind of giving people updates about where we are in the filmmaking process. We have a website, 22booker.com. You can go there and can get more information if you would like. So yeah, like you can follow us on Instagram. 22booker.ent is our Instagram account. There's a couple of places that you can find us, get information and donate. And please support, help us make this film. It's really important to us. We think it's going to be a great project. We have a great team, and we're trying to make it the right way. So,
we got so many other projects you guys don't even know.
Yeah, but we're focused on this one right now.
Focus on this one
right now. So please, hey, look, it just I know it's cool. You can watch our pitch video for that's available in several different places. Things I just named, whatever. But don't just watch the video and just forget about us. Please click the Indiegogo link. Please, go to Film Independent, donate, put your money where your mouth is. Help us make this film, please. Thank you. That's my pitch.
Definitely.
And I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, follow us on all the socials, of course, and in the podcast notes as well as on the socials, bios, and everything. You'll find a way. You'll find exactly where you need to go to support and come alongside us and getting this project made and getting this art out into the world. Will, I know you are Mr. Social Media. I was thinking that joking. But where can people find you? What you got going on? How can people connect with you or see some of the stuff you're working on or doing or have done?
You can check it out. I used to have a website, but I took it down. But you can, what? I'm going to promote my latest project. Go to Amazon Prime and watch Girl in Red.
Girl in Red.
Yep. It's the only one with that title on there.
We'll do it.
That's the support.
We'll do it.
I made it at all myself with I don't even want to think about it. It wasn't a lot of money.
But you did it.
I did it, and then I'm tired.
Well, listen, Will, thank you for jumping on.
Thanks. This is cool.
Also for just being an amazing partner and producer in this project. And everybody, we will see you in the next episode. Don't forget, follow us, subscribe, and support the film.
Click the Indiegogo link and donate. Even $10 helps.
Donate.
Even $10 helps. $20, $30, $40.
Please donate.
$50. $1 million. All right, see you next episode.
Bye, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you.